Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Want to continue our series on the immigration law, and we're starting way back in the beginning. So we're doing a kind of a walk through the history of immigration law in the United States of America. Um, Let me read this here. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. I want to uh, go back to a little bit of what I first discussed. We talked about, of course, the uh, our country was born in 1776, and the laws, of course, came from the Constitution. Of course, we didn't have our Constitution ratified until 1787, and so from 1776 to 1787, there's no Constitution, right? The Constitution was ratified, and if you actually have a handy Constitution on you, you can go to the Article 7, and you'll see the ratification of the Convention of the Nine States shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same, done in the convention of the unanimous consent of the states present, the 17th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th. So 1787 is when the Constitution was ratified. And remember, we had the writers, and we had to take it to the states, and the states had to ratify. So that was done in 1787. The first, let me do this. The Constitution does touch upon immigration, and if you go to Article 1, Section 8, and clause number 4, okay, or paragraph number 4. Of course, you have 7 articles in the Constitution, in the original Constitution, and that was it. And then since then, we've had amendment after amendment, starting with the first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights, but that didn't happen until 1791. All right. Let's see here. So we're actually 27. So we're on Amendment 27, unless I'm missing one, which was ratified on May 7th, 1997. Oh, I'm sorry, 1992. Okay. So anyways, let's go to Clause 4. So you have the first 3 articles of the Constitution. The first one, Article 1, speaks to and lays out really the House of Representatives, the Senate. Article 2 is the executive branch, the presidency. Article 3 speaks to the Supreme Court and the court system. But here we're dealing with the law, and of course our law comes from the legislative branch, right? The Congress. So the Congress makes the law. The president can agree or veto, right? The executive branch. Of course, the Congress can override a veto too. And then the Supreme Court will interpret that law. Okay, so here we go. This is Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, and Article 4. No, I'm sorry, Clause 4. So here we go. Clause 4 is this: to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Of course, okay. Of course, we're not talking about bankruptcies, but we are talking about immigration. So here it is. It's very broad. So there's a lot of room for the Congress to come in and fill in and kind of shape that law, naturalization, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Well, naturalization is um, having people become citizens of this country. And we talked last time that at the beginning of the country, right, from 1776, we didn't even have a constitution until 1787. And so there was no rules, no laws on immigration, right? People just came and they became part of our country, right? The first law that we had, okay, other than the Constitution, this technically would be the first law to regulate commerce with to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Not much there, very broad, okay? So in 1790, okay, so this is 3 years after the Constitution was ratified, 3 years, and a year before the Bill of Rights. Of course, the Bill of Rights is all we ever hear about today in our society today. The First Amendment, free speech; Second Amendment, right to bear arms, right? Right down the road or right down the line, the 10 Amendments. We didn't even have those until 1791. So this law here, this statute, first statute 103, which speaks to naturalization, was before the Bill of Rights. Okay, 3 years after the Constitution, and a year before, or at least a year. You see, because the Bill of Rights was not ratified until December late 1791, right? It wasn't until September 17th. I'm sorry. Let me get to this. December 15th, 1791. So it's almost 1792. But so, anyways, let's go here. The so the statute, March 26, 1790, 1 visit, 2 court, 2-year residency. Okay, free white alien, children of naturalized citizen considered to be citizens. A little bit more background here. Here's the actual language here. Congress passed, ratified the Naturalization Act of 1790. And here's an excerpt here, that any alien being a free white person who shall have resided within the limits and under the jurisdiction of the United States for the term of 2 years may be admitted to become a citizen thereof on application to any common law, and so on and so forth. Well, here it is, and this is kind of what I wanted to touch on, and we'll be done for today. In any one of the states wherein he shall have resided for the term of 1 year at least, and making proof to the satisfaction of such court that he is a person of good character, and taken the oath of affirmation, prescribed by law to support the Constitution. A common thread in our law, and not just immigration law, but we're talking about immigration law, so let's talk about immigration law, is character. And the whole idea here is we do want citizens, we do want immigrants to come to this country, but we want them to come here to contribute to our country, to make our country a better country, to make it a greater republic, right? And that hinges on a person's character. And if we have folks coming here with less than stellar character, then it doesn't help the country. And so the whole idea of having our immigration system set up in the Constitution from Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Uniform rule, very broad, but what that's come down over the years to mean is we want to admit people into this country with good character. And even today, that's one of the big requirements of legal immigration, is that people have good character. And we're not talking about perfect people. Nobody's perfect. Okay, we're just we're looking uh, at the person's um, character. We don't care what the outside is. We don't care, although obviously we've had a history of looking on the external, which is wrong, which is actually an evil, right? And that's not what we want to do. And the idea is we don't care about the external. We care about the internal and what kind of character they have, no matter where they came from, no matter what their race, color, creed, whatever, right? We're looking at their character, and we want to make sure that they're taking an oath of affirmation prescribed by law to support the Constitution. So, yes, good character. Two, that they believe in this country and they're going to support our country, right? It wouldn't be a good idea to have people, first of all, of less of bad character, right? That's not helpful. That's going to lead to crime and all the rest of it, and that's not going to help this country. It's going to hurt it. But beyond that, we don't want folks to come here and say, let's overthrow the government and make our own government, right? We're Americans, and we believe in this country. We believe in the idea of freedom. We believe in the Constitution. And if you're going to become an American, then you need to believe that too. And so that's the idea. So that's the whole underpinning of today's modern immigration. And immigration law is have good character. And again, not perfect, and there's exceptions to the rule, and life happens. We get that, right? But we're looking generally for good character and for folks that are going to support our country and swear an oath and allegiance to our country, our flag, our Constitution. And let me just finish up here. Back in 1790, and if you notice that our law is developed and current events have a big influence on the type of laws and how our laws are written and determined, and how they're brought about and how they're enforced. We have laws in the books today that are not enforced, and it's called dead law. Why? Because the society has long since stopped endorsing those laws, and some of them are still in the books. There's dry counties in some of our places in the country, right? But and I think technically they are. You can't have a drink there, right? Alcohol. But prohibition's been. We've had prohibition. We've overturned it, right? But there's many instances today of dead law where there's law still on the books, but nobody's going to enforce that law because society has moved past it, and the people don't believe that no more. So the law is basically a reflection of society. And I know it's popular to hate lawyers and to have lawyer jokes and the whole thing. I get that. But the truth of the matter is, it's not the lawyers that make the laws necessarily. I mean, the Congress is the one that pins the law, but it's not the attorneys or even the politicians that are the major thrust for the law. It's the people and the people's will. They elect the politicians, the Congress, Senate, and the politicians basically just write the law according to what the people want. So if the laws are bad, or the laws are not what you want them to be. It's not the lawyer's fault, or it's not the Congress. It's the people's fault. The people have been moved over the years, and it'll go back and forth, right? When we had prohibition, we had an amendment to the Constitution saying no more alcohol, right? In the 1917, 18, I'm not sure about that, but it was just a number of years later that we overturned prohibition and said, no, we want alcohol now. Okay, and that wasn't the Congress per se, it was the people that put the officials that elected the congressmen into office to change the law. So let me, I said all that to say this. During the American Revolution, and of course it wasn't just the United States of America, it was the whole world, right? We don't just, we're not just here on this earth by ourselves. So of course the whole world is living and doing its thing, and right. I mean, it's just it's not just America. That's what I'm trying to say. So at that time it was the French Revolution. So France was having its own revolution, right? And that turned very violent and very bad in a big way. And so part of this law in 1790 was, or this, let me see here. Part of the Naturalization Act, okay, was that it was in the current events was the French Revolution, and the founders, or actually this was the first Congress that wrote this law, naturalization, and what it was is they were worried about these, they call them Jacobians, okay, I'm butchering that, but it was there in France where they had this extreme violence, and they were worried about them coming over to the United States of America and doing the same thing. So actually what they did is it changed in 1790, right? It was originally 2 years. They had to be a resident for 2 years before they can become a citizen. But then they changed that in 1795 to 5 years. And the reason they did that is because these terrorists, basically, they were the French. They were worried about them coming to America. So they said, okay, well, let's move it from 2 to 5 years. So they do not become, we can kick them out of the country because they have bad character, right? They're trying to overthrow our government now, or they're bringing terror or violence to our country, and we don't want them here. So that was the idea there. I got lots more to talk about, but we're done for today. Let me read this. And it says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. I want to tie this in real quickly to today in our modern day in immigration. So just like the French Revolution affected our laws, our rules, our immigration, right? Prior to 1790, we didn't have any immigration rules. You become a citizen, right? I mean, other than the Constitution in 1787, but prior to that, right, we didn't have anything. But when the first Congress was writing the Naturalization Act in 1790, it was under the influence of what was going on in the world at that time. And the French Revolution had an influence on how they put that law together, right? The people, right? But the people were fearful of the French coming over, right? So they moved that 2 year to be 5 years. Same thing as today. Our laws are being written, right? In fear of not the French anymore, right? It's South American, and it's different. It's people from maybe the Middle East. So we're worried about 9/11 and all that. So current events, things that are going on in this world, does affect our immigration law and our rules, and um, it helps change it and moves it in different ways. And so it's always been a situation in our country. Um, Naturalization. How many people can come here? How many people, and from where can they move? And what are the specific situations? And so, anyways, we're done for today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.